to this point, we have been talking about solving equations, and these equations have had equal signs in them. We've been learning how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide to solve these equations in many different ways. Today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting inequalities. But before we go into solving them, we're just going to review what inequalities are. So, an inequality is a mathematical statement that contains a greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or a less than or equal to, or a not equal sign in it. Okay? So, um, just a little practice. So, this would be less than or equal to. This would be not equal to. This would be greater than, less than, um, this would be less than, and this would be greater than or equal to. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is how to graph the solutions to inequalities on number lines, okay? So we have t is less than or equal to 8, okay? Now, when you have a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, your circle will be closed, alright? So we're going to put our closed circle on 8, okay? And then we want to talk about all of the numbers that are less than or equal to 8. So we would put the arrow this way because these are all the numbers that are less than 8. Another hint is that whichever way this is facing is the way your arrow should be facing. So do you see how this can make a less than or equal to sign? Okay. All right. So our next equation we're going to be graphing is y is less than 3. Now, because with the less than or equal to and greater than or equal to, the circle is closed. With the less than and greater than, um, the circle will be open. Okay, so the circle will be open. So in this case, we can put our open circle on 3, okay? And then because our equation is saying y is less than 3, we're going to be talking about all the numbers that are less than 3. Okay? All right. We're going to do one more example with this. We have m is greater than or equal to -7. So take a moment, think about whether or not it would be open or closed. If you thought closed, you are correct. Okay, and if the arrow will go to the left or the arrow will go to the right. So the arrow will go to the right, you are correct. Okay, all right. Now with this type of equation, we can actually, given this number line, we can actually write the solution to this inequality. So if we were to try and write the solution to this inequality, the first thing we want to notice is where my dot is, where my circle is, and it's at 1. Okay, it's at +1. Now, if it's open or closed, well, in this case it's closed, so we know it's either going to be less than or equal to. And then which way is my arrow facing? Well, it's talking about everything less than 1. So I'm going to say less than, and because it's a closed circle, equal to. All right, one more example with this. First thing, so we see that our circle is at -3. Okay, and it's an open circle. So right away that should say, okay, it's either going to be less than or greater than. Okay, and my arrow is pointing to all the numbers larger or greater than -3. So my uh, my equation is going to be x is greater than negative 3. All right, so going on to how to solve these inequalities. In order to solve these, just like solving equations, we want the variable alone on one side of the equality, okay? All right, so any number that makes an inequality true is a solution to an inequality, okay? All right, so for example, if n minus 15 is less than 3, now I can just pretend that this is an equal sign, okay, while I'm solving it. So I'm going to solve it the same way I would solve an equation. Okay, so I'm adding 15 to both sides because it was n minus 15. And now I'm going to have n is greater or is less than 3. Or, sorry, not 3. Is less than 18 because 3 plus 15 is 18. All right, so if I go through and I say, okay, well, now I have to graph this. So my number line is by fives in this case, all right? And I know that because it's n is less than 18, well, we're going to start at 18. And because it's just less than, it's going to be an open circle. So I'm just going to say this is about 18, okay? And because it's talking about all the numbers less than 18, we're going to put the equation this way because remember our trick, okay? All right, so now we have n plus 8 is greater than or equal to 19. So just like you would solve equations, we're going to subtract 8 first. Subtract 8. And n is greater than or equal to 19 minus 8, which is 11. Okay? So I'm going to take it because I have a greater than or equal to, my circle is going to be closed. Okay? And because of the way that it's facing, we're talking about everything greater than 11. Um, we're going to have our our number line go this way. Okay, we're going to have it go to the right. All right, one last example for the night. Okay, we have negative 26 is greater than y plus 14. So we're going to solve the equation, get y by itself, isolate the variable, minus 14, minus 14. Okay, we're going to have y left on this side, our sign, and negative 26 minus 14, well, we leave, change, opposite, okay, because it was a subtraction problem. So negative 26 plus negative 14 is going to be negative 40. Okay, now the one thing I want you to notice about this particular problem, our y, our variable, is on the right side of the equation, not the left side like it normally is. So you really need to pay attention about which way the sign is, what direction the sign is in. So we're going to go to negative 40, so my number line is by 10, so negative 20, negative 30, negative 40. It is an open circle because there's no equal to. So we're going to go negative 10, negative 20, 30, negative 40. Okay, now we're talking about all the numbers that are less than negative 40. So if you were to rewrite this problem with the variable on the left side of the equation, it would look like this. Okay? And the reason I'm pointing this out to you is because it really does depend on which way your arrow is pointing. If your arrow is pointing the wrong way, then your entire problem will be wrong. Okay? So in this case, we're talking about all the numbers less than 40. So my arrow is going to face this way. All right. So you just when solving these inequalities, you solve them just like you would equations. And then when you're graphing them, you just want to make sure that you pay attention to which way the arrow needs to point, okay, and whether or not it's an open or closed circle. Oh, and hi, Kenzie.